Entrepreneurial and Innovation subject. Today is the third webinar titled A Story of a Changemaker. Before we move on to the topic, I would like to invite Dilki to formally welcome you all for the session.
Thank you, Dakshani, and good evening, everyone. We are happy to welcome you all here today to the third day of webinar series on Entrepreneurial Talks. I would like to extend a warm and cordial welcome to Mr. Dhanika Perera, CEO of Bhasha and founder of Helakuru, Helapay, Payhere, and Esana, who will be the guest speaker of today's session. As well as I would like to welcome Mrs. Buddhika Dharmaratna, our lecturer of Entrepreneurship and Innovation subject, who provides the guidance and inspiration for conducting this webinar series. And I wholeheartedly welcome all the participants who will be spending their precious time with us today to make success the webinar on Entrepreneurial Talks. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to welcome you all, and I would like to owe this session to Dakshani. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilki. Now I would like to invite Abhishek to introduce the speaker of the day.
Very good evening, everyone. I am very delighted to give an intro to our guest speaker. Thousands of miles begins with single steps. Like that, we have witnessed a person who evolved in Sri Lankan venture within a decade. Yes, the speaker is the serial entrepreneur, Mr. Dhanika Perera, who transformed in a way from engineering undergraduate to a technopreneur. He built the Manavaya app in a school-time project to make the education in native language. Like that, he addressed the problem in the market and gave a good solution. 10 years before, his Helakuru app is the only replacement for the typing in Sinhala. His ideas are always visionary and looking every idea to a localization. Now he's the CEO of Bhasha, which incorporated his products Helakuru, Helapay, Payhere, and Esana. Takshani, over to you.
Thank you, Abhishek, for your introduction. Now, the most awaited time has come. Mr. Dhanika Perera, the session is now yours. We are eagerly waiting to hear about your entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the university for inviting me, I think for the second time. So this session I would like to do in two sections. Initially, I would like to give you a deep understanding of actually the meaning of entrepreneurship, what really means the entrepreneurship. And in the second half, I'll open up to you so that you can actually ask any question that you have and to get answers from me. Okay, so yeah. So I think most of you may know me because of this product that I actually innovated, right? And there are a few others also, Payhere, Esana, and Helapay initiatives. So today, actually, most of the people, people knows me, because of these things, right? Many of them do not actually know me personally, but they know at least one of them, right? So I am actually known to many of people because of these things, right? And even I am invited to speak to you today because actually of these things, right? So that is actually result of I followed a different journey rather than actually following the same own path which most undergraduates actually follow after their graduation, after their studies, after their higher studies. Many of them follow, right? I followed a different path, and I went a different journey, which actually resulted for me to become who I am today, right? So I'm actually sharing with you today as university undergraduates. I mean, you are actually in the age where I was when I started my company, right? So it's actually me in your age, which I did this, right? Okay. So before going further about what I did and what our products did, I would like to give a understanding, knowledge about this thing, right? What is the real meaning of entrepreneurship? We know actually, I mean, this word of entrepreneurship is actually heavily misinterpreted in most of the places, especially in media. You know, I mean, even for a person who's running I mean, even for a person who's running a small business, a shop or a retail shop or something like that, also the media call them as actually an entrepreneur, right? Sinhalin kino vyavasayakaya kiyala oonema vyaparak patan ganna kenek, right? But that is actually the common meaning of entrepreneurship, right? A person who's starting a business, they call as entrepreneur, right? But there's a deep meaning of entrepreneurship, which is actually not simple as that, right? And that is not not an activity, right? Now, starting a business is something, some sort of an activity. So, but the real meaning, the deep meaning of entrepreneurship is not actually based on that activity or any of the knowledge that you have, right? You can actually learn about entrepreneurship, right? You can read books, you can read the stories, and you can learn about entrepreneurship. That is actually what you gain as knowledge. But real entrepreneurship is neither a knowledge, right? It neither a skill. Real entrepreneurship is actually a mindset, right? A real entrepreneurship is actually a mindset, and that mindset should be there for what? That mindset should be there to challenge the status quo, right? To challenge the status quo, right? Now, when I say like this, I know most of you may not understand what is actually a status quo, right? Okay, I said that entrepreneurship is a mindset, and I said that that mindset should be there to challenge the status quo, right? Okay, then we have to look at what is a status quo. The status quo එකක් කියන්නේ මොකක්ද, right? A status quo means the current state of something. යම් දෙයක පවතින තත්වයට අපි කියනවා status quo එකක් කියලා, right? Hope I'm
Sir, you are not audible.
Hope I'm audible to you now. There are actually some disturbances today. We have no power. I'm running on a generator, and there are some internet problems also due to the power cuts. So I'm extremely sorry if there are any kind of disturbances happen. Just let me know. Just even organizers or participant, switch on your mic or just using the chat. Just let me know if you can't hear me or I'm dropping, so that I can repeat it, right? We have to go through this hard time somehow, right? One option is to blame everyone and just wait. And the other option is actually to go through this somehow and make yourself up to a level that these things won't be happen in future, right? Because you are actually the future leaders, right? Okay. So going back to the session, what I just explained you, entrepreneurship is a mindset, and that mindset should be there to challenge the status quo, right? ව්‍යවසායකත්වය කියන්නේ මානසිකත්වයක්. ඒ මානසිකත්වයේ තියෙන්න ඕන මේ status quo එකට challenge කරන්න. then we are looking at what is a status quo. Status quo the status quo means the current state of something. Okay. යම් දෙයක පවතින තත්වයට අපි කියනවා status quo එකක් කියලා. Right? If I tell you with some examples, right? So these are some status quos at present. මේ වර්තමානයේ පවතින තත්වයන් කීපයක්, right? If we consider about transport, what is the current status quo of transport? It is actually motor vehicles, right? I mean, people fulfill the need of transport right now using motor vehicles. Okay. And if we consider about light, how people actually fulfill the need of light right now at present, it's actually using light bulbs, right? Light bulbs. And another one, communication. How people today at present, how people actually fulfill the need of communication, it's actually through smartphones, right? It may be Android, it may be Apple. Sannivedana කියන අවශ්‍යතාවය මිනිස්සු මේ වෙනකොට සපුර ගන්නේ smartphones වලින්, right? So these are actually some examples for 3 status quos at present, right? So the status quo of transport is right now motor vehicles, light bulbs, and communication, smartphones, right? Those are the status quos. But if we can look at the status quos of same 3 things at past, meet a culling මේවයි පැවති තත්වයන්, right? Transport, how people actually used to fulfill the need of transport before, right? It's actually using this thing, right? An animal tacked to some kind of a cart with wheels, right? And the animal is dragging, right? We called it as horse cart or some sort of thing like that, right? Using some sort of animal. That's how actually people used to fulfill the need of transport before this motor vehicle come into the picture, right? So the status quo at past, the status quo of transport at past is this, right? And similarly, light, before actually the light bulb come into the picture, how people used to fulfill the need of light, it's actually through fire, right? Fire. So the fire has actually a long way. I mean, fire evolved from where you actually, founded fire, where man actually founded fire in the beginning, and then actually it evolved to the fire canes, different kind of fire, and it to a level where the lamp can be actually taken through the hand, right? ආලෝකය කියන එක මුලින්ම ආලෝකය හොයාගත්ත මට්ටමේ ඉඳන් ඒක විකාශනය වෙලා හුළු අත්තක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, ගිනි මැලයක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ අතේ ගිනින ලාම්පුවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. It actually evolved, but it's still fire, right? People knew the only way of actually fulfilling the need of light as fire, right? So the status quo of light at past was fire, right? And the third thing, communication, sannivedana, right? You don't have to go far back, in history, right? If you actually go back about 10 years, right? How people fulfill the need of communication 10 years back, it's actually through this feature phones, right? Or actually through calls and SMS, right? Just calls and SMS, right? Right? Likewise. So the status quo of communication at past, right? The recent past was actually this, right? So now I explained you some status quos at present and the same things, the status quo of same things at past, right? Now a question comes, who actually changed those status quos? Who actually changed those status quos from these levels to the present level, right? Who actually did them? And that is none other than the people in history, right? It's not God. It's not anyone else, right? It was actually the people in history, right? You know the story of Henry Ford, right? And Thomas Alva Edison. You know how many times actually he failed, right? And the recent one, Steve Jobs, right? So those were the people who actually changed those status quos, right? So if I connect from the very beginning, I mentioned you entrepreneurship is a mindset, right? And that mindset should be there to challenge the status quo. And I then actually showed you some examples of some status quos at present and some status quos at past. And I let you know those status quos was changed none other than the people in history, right? So the next thing we are going to discuss how actually we challenge a status quo, right? How actually we can challenge a status quo, right? We saw that there were few people who has done that before, right? Who has done that before. And now we are going to discuss how we can do that. අපි ඒක කොහොමද කරන්නේ? අපි කොහොමද මේ පවතින තත්ත්වයක් වෙනස් කරන්නේ? Right? පවතින තත්ත්වයක් වෙනස් කරන්නේ. Right? So to understand this by yourself, I actually invite you to do a little activity, right? Normally before COVID, when I do this session before COVID, when I visit universities or visit actually students, I ask them to get a pen and a pencil and to do this physically, right? But since we are in a virtual environment, I still ask you to do this, but not actually using the physical instruments, but using your mind, right? We have a mind that we can actually imagine things, no, right? Okay. So what I ask you to do, each and every one of you should do this, right? What I ask you to do, assume that I actually give you 1 minute of time, right? And a pen and a pencil in front of you, right? And I ask you to draw a fish, right? So just close your eyes and imagine if I ask you to draw a fish like that using pen and a pencil, sorry, paper and a pencil, right? How would you draw that? How would you draw that? Just imagine what are the lines you would draw. Okay, what is the first line that you draw? What is the second line? And how you actually complete drawing a fish within 1 minute, right? Just imagine it, right? Just imagine how would you draw it. If you have a paper and a pencil nearby, you can actually do that, right? Or you have a smartphone where you can draw something, you can get that one and do this, right? Okay. So I think now every one of you have an idea or an imagination. Okay, this is how I would draw a fish if I am given time. Okay. Because I'm asking you this because I have drawn a fish on screen. So I want you to match how exactly your fish is similar to my fish. Okay. Right. Okay. Now I think it's enough time. So I hope most of you may have imagine drawing a fish. I mean, start drawing a fish like this, right? If you actually did the activity, you may have actually drawn the fish like this, right? And you may have continue like this, and wings like this. Okay. So I hope most of you, right, may have imagined drawing a fish or actually drawn a fish similar to this, or actually like this. Okay, right. I think I'm correct to a greater extent, right? Okay. Now I'm actually asking you a question, right? That question is, now your fish may be actually a little bit different to this, but I think it's similar. I mean, it's actually somewhat similar to this. Okay. So in any case, what I'm asking you now, right? Ask these questions from yourself. Who actually taught you to draw a fish like this? කවුද ඔබට මේ විදිහට මාළුවෙක් වඳින්න මුලින්ම කියලා දුන්නේ? Right? It's actually who? It's actually none other than our preschool teacher, right? Montessori teacher, right? අපේ පෙර පාසල් ගුරුවරයා තමයි අපිට මේ විදිහට මුලින්ම මාළුවෙක් අදින්න කියලා දුන්නේ, right? And my second question is, what is actually your age at that time? එහෙනම් මාළුවෙක් අදින්න ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට ඔබේ වයස කීයද? I think you were at your you were 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, right? Okay. And the third question, the final question, what is your age now? What is your age now? Right? I think all of you are in your 20s, right? 19, 20, 22, right? All of you are in your 20s, right? But still, if someone asks you to draw a fish, right, your mind leads you to draw a fish like this, right? Still, 20 years of age of you are drawing a fish like the way that your preschool teacher taught you about 15 years back, right? We call this as a box. We call this as a box, right? Where are these boxes? Where is this box is? This box is in your mind, right? This box is nowhere else. This box is actually in your mind, right? These kind of boxes we have put into our mind, right, from our birth, right, from our childhood, right? And some of those boxes may have actually put into our mind by our teachers, by our parents, by our relatives, by our friends, by the society, maybe by ourselves, right? There are different kind of boxes like this in our mind, right? We have put in our mind so that sometimes when we are thinking about something, we cannot think beyond these boxes, right? Beyond these boxes, because that boxes are set in your mind, right? Right. Now you drew a fish like that, but is real fish actually like that? Are real fish actually like that? No, right? There are this kind of fish, this kind of fish, there are different kind of fish, right? But you drew the fish like this, right? You imagine drawing the fish like this. Even when I am actually doing this for the very first time, I did the same, right? Because of these boxes, right? And if you are to challenge the status quo, මේ පවතින තත්ත්වය වෙනස් කරන්න නම්, if you are to change this current status quo, you have to start thinking beyond these boxes, right? Beyond these boxes which are put into your mind by so many or by yourself, right? And that's what we actually call as think out of the box, right? I hope you may have actually seen this sentence, seen this phrase so many times everywhere, right? But I hope today you learned what is actually this box really means, and what is actually this thinking out of the box really means. Right? If you actually could think out of this box which was put into your mind by your preschool teacher, right? You may have actually drawn a fish like this, right? Or like this, or even like this, and like this, right? So this is actually a must. If you are actually to challenge the status quo, you have to start thinking out of these boxes which are in your mind, right? Which are not anywhere else, which are in your mind, right? So then actually the next activity, right? The second activity, I ask you to draw a mouse, right? So you don't have to do this, right? You don't have to even imagine this, right? But if I ask you, if I actually give you time, and if you give a paper and a pencil, how would you draw a mouse? Most probably like this, right? But there was a man in history who actually drew a mouse like this. Who is this? Mickey Mouse, right? Mickey Mouse. All of you know, right? What is the difference? This is actually thinking within the box, and this is actually thinking out of the box, And that man was Walt Disney. You know, Disney is actually today one of the world's largest animation company or production company in the world, right? Okay. So previously, I showed you 3 examples. The people in history who actually changed those status quos, right? How they did it, they did the same thing. They did it nothing else, right? They did the same thing. Henry Ford says, people ask me faster horses, not actually motor vehicles, right? මිනිසු මගෙන් ඉල්ලුවේ හයිය අස්ස කරා කියලා කියනවා. Henry Ford, right? Vehicles, people ask me faster horses. Why is that? The people, the ordinary people who has the ordinary mindset, right? Not the entrepreneurial mindset, which we talked about, right? The normal people who have normal mindset do not actually think. They don't have a capacity to think, right? There can be a different solution for a same problem, right? So they always actually expect is some advancement of actually the current status quo, some advancement of the current status quo. Okay, if the current status quo is actually horse carts, what they actually is actually faster horse carts, not actually anything else. Right? But this man thought, okay, no, there can be a different solution, right? Even though Henry Ford is not actually a person who invented motor vehicles, he was the one actually believed that this can change the status quo. He was who commercialized it actually and bring it to the common man, right? Who marketed it and actually built a business out of that, right? Because he built it, because he believed it, right? And then actually, you know the story of Thomas Alva Edison. How many times actually he failed before actually inventing the light bulb? Why is that, right? Just go back actually from your mind to the history, right? What you all before actually this man doing this thing, what you may see everywhere is actually fire, right? As a mode of fulfilling the need of light, there may be everywhere, there may be fire, right? So all the people around you are getting fulfilled, or they are actually uh, fulfilling the need of light through fire. And there is one man who believes, okay, no, not fire, but there can be a different solution for the problem of light, right? Who believes a person like that? All the people around him may actually thought, okay, this is a crazy guy. This is a right? And there may be no support from anyone else, right? So actually he believed it. He tried it, failed it, tried it, failed it, tried it, failed it. Ultimately, he actually did it, right? And because of this man thought there can be a different solution. Okay, that I can challenge the status quo and I can introduce a new status quo. We all are actually benefiting right now with this new status quo of light, right? And the recent example is Steve Jobs, right? What was the case? Now, at that time, before Steve Jobs actually introduced this iPhone, right? The most demanded phone in the world was actually the phone with the most number of buttons. If you have heard about BlackBerry, 10 years back, it was actually the most demanded phone used by all the high personalities, government officials, all that, right? That was actually the premium phone model, the brand, right? So at such a time, where the most number of keys, the phone with most number of keys was actually the market demand. This man believed, okay, this is not going to be the future. I need to challenge the status quo, and the next status quo should be something simple. And he believed the phone should have only one button, right? Only one button. Where the demand is for the most number of buttons, he believed, no, I want to make it simple as possible, and it's only one button, I will make a phone, right? Right now, what has happened? All the world has actually converted to his vision, what he believed, right? iPhone actually introduced that with a one button phone, the first iPhone. Even that button is no longer there in iPhones right now, right? And Android also, Google also followed that with Android. And right now the world is dominated by Apple and Android, right? Okay, so when I actually share these examples of the people who challenge the status quo and actually introduce a new status quo to the world, to the people, right? You may actually see, some of you may actually think, okay, not for us, right? Because I got all three examples from outside, no? So there can be some people who think like that, right? Who think like that. What can we Sri Lankans think out of the box, right? So this is actually nothing else. This is actually the pessimistic mindset, right? Which never has to have by an entrepreneur, right? Because you every time you see what you look at, right? If you always see the dark side, if you always see the dark side, if you always look at the dark side, you always see the negativities, the impossibilities, right? Araka ba, make a hinda araka ba, maraka hinda make a ba. You always see actually the negativities, right? Impossibilities, right? But if you actually look at the bright side, right, then actually you will start to see the things which are possible. Okay, if I do this way, this will be possible. If I do that way, it will be possible. If I can solve this problem, that problem will be possible. Right? If you start looking at the bright side, you always start to see the things positively, right? So the positive mindset is a must for an entrepreneur, right? So for those who actually think like that, a man from Sri Lankan history, අපේ ඉතිහාසයේ හිටපු මිනිස්සෙක් දෙනම හොඳ example එකක්. He gives a great example, right? And that man was Audrey Silva. The problem domain was coconut scraping, right? Now, if you remember, sometimes back, how our grandmothers actually scraped the coconut is like this, right? A tool like this was used for that, right? And this man saw this tool, and he actually figured out, okay, this is a very inefficient thing, right? Why is that? Because this tool has only one blade, right? You can see the blade here. It's only one blade, and you even have to scrape the coconut only by moving the coconut into one direction. Okay, one direction it's being scraped, and the other direction you just have to actually pull it out. So just a waste movement. It's a totally waste. Only one movement is productive. The other movement is a waste, right? So this man thought, okay, what if now this has only one blade? No, what if we use 3 blades instead of 1 blade to scrape the coconut, right? And and there's a saying that actually he went to his wife and shared the idea. Okay, Hamine, what if we use 3 blades instead of 1 blade? And Hamine has told him, okay, when you actually put 3 blades here, where the hell you are actually putting the coconut, right? මේක මේ blades 3ක් දැම්මහම පොල් බෑ දාන්නේ මොකක් අස්සෙද කියලා හොවලු, right? Now it's fair enough, right? Because a person with a normal mindset, right? I always said that entrepreneurship is actually a mindset, and that mindset is actually not in everyone, right? If you have this mindset, you are blessed. You should be an entrepreneur, definitely, right? But there are persons who do not have this mindset as well, right? So those persons, those people, this is how they actually perceive that. This is actually, they see this, right? Okay, putting 3 blades means to them, like if you can see my video, it's like this 1 blade and another blade and another blade, right? Now, Hamine thought the idea like that. Okay, if the blades are, the 3 blades are put like that, where actually the coconut is, where can I put the coconut? Fair enough, right? But is it the same thinking that this man, Mr. Audrey Silva, actually thought? No. What he thought is actually 3 plates like this, right? Now this is what, if you can analyze it, this is actually 3 blades, right? But is it actually placed in the way that Hamine thought? No, it's actually placed in the vertical direction, right? The vertical direction. Just go to your kitchen and check this tool, right? It's actually 3 blades placed in a different way, right? And can you put the coconut now? Can, right? You can. But there is a problem. Now, can you actually scrape the coconut with the same direction like in this tool? No, like you can't actually use the same direction, same movement, right? So then actually what this man did, he even changed the way the coconut is being scraped, the direction or the movement the coconut is being scraped. And right now, how we actually scrape a coconut, we are scraping a coconut in a rotational direction, right? In a rotational direction, right? So he changed the entire way how a coconut is being scraped, right? Even India, now this method is used, invented or introduced by this Sri Lankan, right? And even some companies have actually taken it to a little advancement of right now, even you don't have to use your hand for that movement. It's actually motorized, right? You can press a button and you can scrape it, right? So this is actually an example how we can challenge a status quo, right? It doesn't have to be very big things, right? We see actually very big things in the world, right? What Elon Musk's do with regard to Tesla, he even changed actually the entire way the motor vehicles are being, generating the movement, right? Are being powered. And he changed actually many things, right? But the bottom line is you don't have to do that kind of big things to make a difference in the society or to make a change in the status quo, right? Even the small things matters, right? How a coconut being scraped has been changed by this man, right? And if I share you our stories, our problem domain was digital Sinhala writing initially, right? What was the status quo before? This was actually how people express their ideas in their mother tongue, Sinhala. Sinhalese people, how they actually express their ideas. It was like this in digital media, mostly in SMSs, right? Back in the days, we sent SMSs in Singlish, right? For our brother and sister, for our friends, we actually typed the Sinhala message in English and sent it, right? But with this little innovation, with this little product, we could change that entire status quo into this level where today you hardly see any Sinhala content written in Singlish or Latin characters, right? Everyone now uses the real Sinhala Unicode, real Sinhala characters when expressing themselves in digital media, right? With technology, in the correct way, in the right way, in the proper way, right? And the background for that, this is actually my story, how actually my journey led me to do that, right? I didn't have many things to go to this journey, right? But I had a very unique thing and a very valuable thing. That is, I had a unique passion, right? What is a passion? Passion is actually a burning desire to do something, right? Not only me, each and every one of you have a passion of yourself, right? It may be actually seem crazy for some other, but for you, if it is your actually your burning desire, or your actually what you really care about, what you really love at, right? It's really important to identify what is your passion if you need to go on an entrepreneurial journey, right? I actually could identify that during my school age, right? But I mean, when I look back, I can see that I have been able to work on that from the school age. But at that time, actually, even I didn't know that is my passion. That happens actually, right? Right. It can take some time for you to realize what is your real passion of life, right? But it's just a matter of time when you identify that, when you realize that, right? So when I look back in my journey, this was actually my school project. At that time, we had to do an extracurricular project for the A levels. So I did. At a time where I didn't know anything about languages, programming languages, or coding, I just used an animation software, a drag and drop software, and developed a little piece of encyclopedia kind of a software, desktop software, not mobile, called Manavya, which actually explains the biological aspect of the human body, right? And I even received a Young Computer Scientist Silver Award in 2007 for this product I did for my school, and it was in Sinhala. My passion was actually making software stuff in Sinhala, in local language, right? So now when I look back, I can understand that I have been working to that passion from my school age, from my A-level days. And what happened when I got into the university? I did my bachelor's in University of Moratuwa. So when I got into the university, when I had to do an individual project, I choose to do the project in my same passion, right? As a result, actually, that time was the very early stages of Android being introduced to Sri Lanka, or Android smartphones being introduced to Sri Lanka, right? So initially, there were no Sinhala, Tamil, or any Indic language support for Android operating system. So I developed a web browser, right, like Google Chrome, Firefox, kind of a web browser that can actually gives the readability of any Sinhala or Tamil characters, right? So if you can see the logo reflects all three languages in Sri Lanka, Sinhala, Tamil, and English. So I developed that my university project, or the university the innovation that I did for my university project as a trilingual web browser, where you can actually read any kind of Sinhala, Tamil, or English websites on your mobile, right? And then what happened when I then actually I received an international award, Billion South Asian Award in 2011 for this product, and that was actually identified by a enterprise or a corporate in Sri Lanka, which was Etisalat, right, a telco at that time, and they offered me a business opportunity. Okay, we are interested on your innovation. We want to give it to our subscriber base, and that's where actually I became an entrepreneur. I decided, okay, now I have my first customer in my hand and my first product in my hand. Okay, why not I start my own company, right? And I registered Bhasha Lanka Private Limited as a limited liability company in the country, just as a university undergraduate, right, in my third year in the university, right? And that's what I mentioned in the very beginning. It's exactly your age where you are now, right? So I registered my company in 2011, October 20th, right? Just as a university student, a one-person company, single man company, right? And I did this deal with Etisalat, right? And then what happened after I graduated in 2013, I opened an office and I continued working on my same passion, localization, language stuff. And as a result, I came up with this product, right? Because actually from the society itself, the demand came because with my first innovation, I give the Sinhala reading capability, and then the demand came from the users itself. Okay, we can now read, but we need to write as well. We need to write in Sinhala as well using mobile. And that's where I identified the market gap or the unfulfilled need. And I projected in future, this will be a huge need for Sri Lankans. I envisioned that, and I came up with this product, Helakuru, as a Sinhala typing solution on mobiles, right? And fast forward to 10 years ahead, right now, we are actually empowering more than 10 million Sri Lankans. We are the only Sri Lankan made app on Google Play Store with over 10 million downloads. And we have about 4.5 million active users who's daily using Helakuru. Right now, not only as a Sinhala typing tool, but we in the middle of our journey, we evolved it from a Sinhala keyboard app to a super app, which has multiple services through the same app, right? And that actually led us to acquire more users, or to serve more users with more facilities, right? And right now, 4.5 million people in the country, active users, people in the country are getting the users of all these facilities, right? Sinhala typing, Tamil typing, new services, payment services, social networking features, everything, right? And even actually our second product, Payhere, the problem domain was actually online payments. Since I'm a little bit running out of time, I'll actually fast forward. uh, online payments, what was actually the status quo before? Now everyone was blaming, okay, we need PayPal, right? So this was actually a problem for the business community in the country. Businesses, local businesses didn't have a proper way to accept payments online, right? The bank payment gateways were the only solution, but they were not affordable, right? There were so many fees, annual fees and setup fees, and they were actually not accessible even, right? You had to wait in a queue to get a payment gateway service. So when I start my business, Bhasha, and when I actually grow with that, we felt the same need. Okay, we are actually serving our customers digitally, remotely, but we don't have a proper way to get paid online, right? And then actually I figured out, not only us, there are more businesses in the country with the same need, with the same unfulfilled problem. And then actually I made a solution for that, Payhere. And today, uh, if I fast forward, today, right now, uh, we are serving about 4,000 local businesses, right? We are serving about 4,000 local businesses to easily get paid online, right? As an alternative for PayPal, right? So if actually the people only waited for PayPal, blaming for the government, and there was, I mean, so many governments gave so many promises over the time, right? But still, after a decade, still PayPal is just actually not there, right? And even if they come, we have actually built our capabilities and our affordabilities up to a level that we can uh, provide a better service to our customers, right? So right now, Payhere has helped local businesses, more than 4,000 local businesses, to get paid online more than 5 billion rupees of payments, right? Not millions, just but billions, right? More than 5 billion rupees of payments, right? And that's actually how we challenge the status quo of online payments in the country, right? It was just blaming and waiting before. And right now we have provided a viable solution, which is used by thousands of businesses and processing billions of payments. And our recent initiative, Helapay, that is actually again to cover up or to fill an unfulfilled need in the country. But I think it's too early to share about that story. But up to now, I'll just share what we have achieved already. It's actually just about 5 months after we launched this new product, right? But within these 5 months, we have, I mean, people have used this local payment method to do more than 50 million rupees of payments. And even this is actually from the businesses side. There are hundreds of businesses right now actually started accepting payments digitally. I mean, instead of cash, digitally, they have started accepting this payment method, this as a payment method from their customers. Okay, so the bottom line is, now if I mind map, from the very beginning, entrepreneurship is a mindset, and that mindset should be there to challenge this current status quo, right? The current status quo. And I showed you previously the man on history who have challenged those status quo to what we are actually experiencing today, right? And then actually I shared my story, how we actually challenge the status quo of digital singular writing and online payments in the country, and even with Helapay, how Sri Lankans make payments, right? And the best thing, you have to see the opportunities, right? If you are to become an entrepreneur, this is very important, seeing the opportunities, right? Because anything you see today are not the best to solve their specific problems, right? You can just look up and see what you see around you, right? It can be a mic, it can be a switch, it can be actually a chair, it can be a mosquito net, it can be a dress, it can be a bucket. Any of those if you consider about what is the problem that is being solved by these things, any of those are not the best to solve those problems, right? Because the best is always yet to come, right? Because the best is always yet to come. And as entrepreneurs, if you are to become an entrepreneur, it's your duty to come up with the best, right? And to do that, you need another few things, right? You need to think new, right? That is actually what there's the same thing I explained. Think out of the box, right? You have to think new. You can't actually just limit it to the boxes in your mind and think within these boxes. You have to think in a new way. Albert Einstein say we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them, right? Right. So we have to actually think in a different way if you are to solve the problems around us. And you have to dare to be different also, right? Because entrepreneurial journey is not actually a common journey, understandable by people around you, right? It's a different journey, right? I took the examples before, right? How the normal people with normal mindset thinks, right? And how this entrepreneurial mindset, people who have entrepreneurial mindset think about things, right? And even when they do things, what they do is actually also different to the how other normal people do, right? So to be like that different person, to think in a different way and act in a different way, you have to be dare to be different, right? When a certain nirbita venno, right? Right? ඔබ වෙනසක් කරන්න නම් යන්නේ. ඔබ සමාජයට වෙනසක් කරන්න නම් සමාජයේ යහපතට අරන් යන වෙනසක් කරන්න නම් යන්නේ. ඔබ වෙනස් විදිහට හිතන්න, වෙනස් විදිහට දේවල් කරන්න පටන් ගන්න ඕන. එතකොට ගොඩාක් සමාජයේ there may be many actually obstacles, many actually challenges will come when you actually act in a different way, right? So that's why you have to be dare to be different, right? මේ වෙනසට යනකොට ගොඩාක් බාධක එන්න පුළුවන්, ගොඩාක් කරදර එන්න පුළුවන්. ඒවා ඉවසගෙන ඉස්සරහට යන්න ඔබ නිර්භීත වෙන්න ඕන වෙනස, right? And there's a famous quote by Steve Jobs. It's just past 8, but I'll continue about 5 minutes. Steve Jobs says, here's to the crazy ones,
the misfits,
the misfits,
the rebels,
the rebels,
the troublemakers,
the troublemakers,
the round pegs in the square holes,
the round pegs in the square holes,
the ones who see things differently.
the one who see things
They're
differently.
not fond of rules.
They're not fond of rules.
No respect for
They
the
have no
status
respect for the status quo.
You can quote them,
You can
disagree
quote
with
them, disagree with
glorify or
them,
vilify them.
glorify or verify them.
About the only thing you
But the
can't
only
do
thing
is
you
ignore
can't do is ignore
because
them.
they change things.
Because they change
push the
things.
human race forward.
They push the human race forward.
While some may see them as the crazy ones,
While some may see them as crazy ones,
we see genius.
we see genius.
Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. මේ ලෝකේ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා හිතන්න තරම් පිස්සුවක් තියෙන මිනිස්සුන්ටම තමයි ඇත්තම මේ ලෝකේ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? When you actually being that different person, people will call you all these crazy ones, misfits, rebels, troublemakers, ඔක්කොම කියයි, right? But you have to believe in yourself and you have to dare to be different and go your journey, right? Okay, the last thing, the last slide. Now we discussed what is actually entrepreneurship, and I mentioned that it's a mindset to challenge the status quo, and we discuss how to challenge the status quo. We have to think out of the box. We have to think new, right? And the last point, why we challenge the status quo? Ayi api meka karanne, right? So when we actually think about this, we can consider what has been accomplished by challenging the status quo. අපිට කලින් හිටපු අය මේ ස්ටේටස් කෝ එකට චැලෙන්ජ් කිරීම නිසා මොනවාද ඇත්තටම වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? We can actually think about that, right? And we don't have anything to discuss new because throughout this session, what all the examples that we discussed already are the result of this, right? Everything you actually experience today, everything you enjoy today around you are the results of someone in history challenge the status quo and introducing a new status quo which you actually enjoy today, right? If actually Henry Ford didn't thought like that, if actually he didn't actually change that status quo, when you look actually beyond your window or door, what you still see is actually horse carts, right? And if the Thomas Alva Edison uh, didn't change that status quo, what we see by night everywhere, just fire, right? And all the things, right? If Helakuru didn't come into the picture, you will still see Singlish and Tanglish, right? In digital media and social media, we have any uniqueness of our language, right? So everything, not only these examples, everything around you, the products and services and everything you enjoy today are the results of someone in history challenging the status quo and introducing this new status quo which you enjoy today. But this is not the best. I already mentioned. It's up to you to move it forward, to take it forward from this level to the next level, the next status quo, right? And in simple terms, why we should challenge the status quo. Not only you, the entire human race will be benefited if you can do that, right? So why we need to challenge this quo, why we need entrepreneurship is none other than to push the human race forward, to push the human race forward, right? සිංහලේ ලස්සන කියමනක් තියෙනවා මිනිසාගේ පරම යුතුයකම මිනිසාට සේවය කිරීම, right? The ultimate objective of man is to serve the mankind, right? And I believe that is actually the real meaning of entrepreneurship, right? I have actually accomplished many things in my life, personally, professionally, academically, and everything, right? But still, what I'm most happy about, what I'm most content about is seeing the things like this. Those who don't know me, the people, the Facebook groups, many people share posts about myself, talk about myself, right? And discuss about what I did, right? Because of actually, I have made a difference. Now, we know actually, I was really proud and really happy to see your introduction video as well, right? And that is actually my utmost happiness, right? Because through the things I have done, I have been able to mark a footprint, right? By positively impacting the lives of people in the country, right? And likewise, I mean, we all come into this world and live for some years and we leave, right? But there are some people in history who are no longer there, but still we actually recall their names. Still we actually talk about them. Still we actually discuss about them. Even during this present session, some names were actually mentioned like that. Why is that? Because even though they are no longer in the world, they have actually marked their footprint on earth, right? So entrepreneurship is a great opportunity for you to mark your footprint in the world with what you do, right? So the $1 million question is actually, what will you do to challenge the status quo? Thank you very much. And then we can actually move on to the questions. If you have any questions, you can even switch on a mic and ask, or you can use the chat. I will read the chat and answer your questions. And just a little bit of a sharing. This is actually in front of our office. here, right? And this box reflects none other than what I mentioned in my session as the box in our mind. And you can see this, the cuts here, and these cuts, what has been cut here are the things that is put in this wall, right? This wall, right? So what this means is, if you think out of this box in your mind, you can actually come up with these kind of great things, which you can actually leave to the world, even when you leave the world, even when you close your eyes. Okay, we'll move on to the Q&A. If you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you.
Sir,
Yes, I can hear.
actually, I want to thank you that such a motivative session you provide to us. And actually, I have a question, sir. Actually, when we introduce some innovative thing,
Filled by the others in the market, right? Other players in the market. That's where actually innovation, right, is very important. Start small, and when we, as a startup, as a being innovative is very important, because if you can actually identify an unresolved problem, unfulfilled problem, viable product or a service which you can actually which can actually solve that problem, right? Then actually you go into a blue ocean. We call it as a blue ocean because there's no much competitors in that, because no one else actually fulfill that need for your customers, right? So that it's very easy to actually grab your market, right? And even in our experience also, all of our products was similar, right? When we actually introduced Helakuru as a singular typing facility, there were no product in the market. There were no existing product even in the world which actually could solve that problem, typing single on mobile devices, right? So that it was actually a no option situation for the customers than doing using our product, right? And not only they use that to fulfill that need, they actually did our marketing part as well. They actually spread our product to the others, right? Through word of mouth, positive word of mouth, right? And they were actually the one who actually made the Helakuru as a viral product. It actually went through word of mouth, person to person, and that's how actually we could actually gain this kind of a number of downloads and this kind of number of user base within such a time, right? We haven't actually done any advertisement in TV or radio media asking them to download the app, right? Right. Right now we see many advertisements on TV and everywhere asking to download this app, download that app, download that app. You may have seen, right? But Helakuru, have you seen any kind of like that, right? So the product is itself should be your most powerful tool to grab the market, the product itself, right? If you can identify the right problem, valid problem to your target market, and if you can come up with a viable solution, sustainable and viable solution to solve that problem, you have very less competition or no competition at all, right? That's what I actually followed, and that's actually the best way to follow as a startup, as a new product to grab the market.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Dear participants, if you have, feel free to ask. Also, you can direct your questions in the chat box as well.
Hello, sir. I
Yes.
think we have a question in chat box, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't check. Academics make a job. Sorry. You have a major product that it could push us numerous forward. Don't you also force the international market? Okay, this is actually one major mistake, or actually one major I mean misthinking that our people have, always to actually not to appreciate the local products, right? Now, few years back, when I actually innovate, or when I introduce all these products to the local market, I actually face this challenge of answering this question all the time, right? Okay, you have products successfully done in the local market. Why don't you go global, right? Why don't you go global, right? And later on, I realized I don't have to bother about this problem, because being successful with a product in the local market doesn't actually necessarily means that you should definitely go to the global market to be success, right? Because there are many success stories in the world which has been success the current market itself, right? If you can actually now I think most of you are cricket fans. What is actually the sponsoring main sponsor of the recent cricket tournament? Paytm, right? So Paytm is actually an Indian product, right? And they operate only in India, right? They have actually no plans, or actually they have no need of taking Paytm beyond India, right? Because in that market itself, they are actually serving that particular market, right? And there are some products like Coca-Cola and actually likewise product which are actually applicable, or can be actually please any kind of market segment in the world, any kind of people. But there are some products which actually are, I mean, tailor-made to that specific target market, right? Tailor-made to that specific target market, so that sometimes actually they have the opportunity only in that market, right? That's not a downside. That's actually a market segmentation method, right? Understanding a unique need of some market segment and fulfilling that in a greater level, right? So that you can grab that whole market, right? And Paytm has done that exactly similar. They have actually identified the Indian consumer, Indian businessman, and they have actually fulfilled that need. And we can see in China, WeChat Pay, Alipay kind of solutions, right? They don't actually bother to go to other countries, right? Some can say that their markets are really big, so that they can survive in that market only. So do I can say we can survive in Sri Lankan market as well, because right now we have 22 million people, right? Now we actually have that's what I said, that pessimistic mindset. Always we have pessimistic mindset. Our people normally has that. Okay, well, Sri Lanka is a small country. Small is actually only in the map. But if you can consider about the population, right? Just consider the population of Singapore, Maldives, and us, right? There's no much difference, right? So if the Singapore can operate their products, right, in only in that market, there's no reason that we can't, right? And also now making a global product, in other sense, there is another approach. You can actually make local alternative for global products. Now Payhere is actually something like that, right? Now Payhere, we made a local alternative for a global product. We replaced PayPal coming into Sri Lanka, or we replaced PayPal's need of Sri Lanka entirely by a local product, right? So in that case, now what I was explaining, there are some products which are actually their core strength. Now most of our products are like that. Helakuru, Payhere, even Helapay, those products are tailor-made, identified that particular market need and to fulfill that market need. So that may not be applicable to every country, every human being in the world, right? So we have to identify, you have to identify that even when you come up with products and services, you don't have to serve the whole world. It's good that you can do that, but I mean, it's very, very unlikely that that being ended up with that. But you have to proud of, okay, if I can serve at least this kind of market segment, and if I can actually be the product market leader of that market segment, that is your achievement. You have to be proud of, right? So that's actually what how I think. That's actually my thinking pattern goes.
So there's another question from audience.
Yes, academics makes a job finding mindset, but how to keep entrepreneur mindset with that? Okay, I don't think actually academics make a job finding mindset, uh, because academics, what you actually do when you learn in school, when you learn in a university, what you actually do is gaining knowledge, right? It's gaining knowledge. So knowledge is very important for you to, I mean, do everything in life, right? Now, even I actually, I became an entrepreneur after being graduated my bachelor's from University of Moratuwa, and then actually starting my own company and growing my own company. I didn't have any need to get another academic qualification, right? Academic co, I mean, you know, to get those letters, right? But I did a master's in business administration. Not actually I want to, because I want to get that qualification, but I needed that knowledge, right? For the growth of my business, to take my businesses forward, to better serve our customers, better serve the people, right? So I did my MBA, master's in business administration, just because I needed that knowledge. So always think that your university life is the purpose of your university life as a knowledge gaining opportunity, not actually a job finding opportunity, right? Not actually a qualification finding opportunity, right? That's why it is important to gain the knowledge, not actually just to sit for the exam and get a pass. You have to gain that knowledge, right? Then only you can use that knowledge even when you go for a job, even when you start your own business, even when you actually be a sportsman, be a musician. That knowledge won't actually be a waste for you, right? So keeping the entrepreneurial mindset is completely up to you. You can't actually blame for the this and that for not having an entrepreneurial mindset. It's up to you it totally depends on how you see things. How you see things, right? If you are a person, if you actually always see things, okay, right? If you have that pessimistic mindset, you will never have the entrepreneurial mindset. And if you actually always in the blaming mindset, okay, this government make a light ne, current ne, diesel ne, that blaming mindset, neither you can, right? But if you have the mindset, okay, there is a problem. There is a problem. Now, right now, our country has many problems, right? Now, if you have this entrepreneurial mindset, you have to start thinking, okay, what are the problems that I can solve with my strengths, with my knowledge, with my expertise, with my attitude, right? What are the problems that I can solve? What, and you can come up with ideas, new ideas to solve them, right? And if you can convert that ideas to product and services, and if you can at least solve one of those problems, you can be an entrepreneur, right? You can build a great business out of that, right? And that should be the thinking of entrepreneur, right? You have to see things when others blaming and waiting and doing nothing. You have to see these problems as opportunities and convert them, come up with ideas and convert them into products and services which can introduce to the market as solutions, right? So that mindset is always up to you, how you see things. You can't blame on your school system. That's what I even in my example said. You can't blame the preschool teacher to for putting that box of how a fish is drawn. That preschool teachers job is actually to teach you to in that level, in that age, to teach you how to draw a fish. But it's your problem. Even when you grew up, you haven't actually think beyond that about drawing a fish, right? It's your problem, right? You can't stop. It's up to you to break those boxes and think beyond. Okay. Okay, another question. No, it's all. That's all.
Thank you very much, sir, for the knowledge session and sharing your experience. And thank you for answering the questions. It inspires people and the junk minds for sure. Dear all, if you have any thoughts or feedbacks regarding the session, you can share now.
Okay, let me first to my feedback and a very good evening all. Permission from our resource person, Mr. Dhanika. And before giving a comment, let me add something to the questions raised by the students. As our resource person very correctly said, entrepreneurial mindset is up to the person, but the academics have a role to play, that is facilitating them and maybe supportive, playing a supportive role to create such a mindset. Actually, this is such an attempt, within the classroom, in a lecture, we cannot create such a big mindset, but we will try to develop some skill parts plus some knowledge. But we bring these role models, we bring this model on these entrepreneurs, eminent entrepreneurs, in order to create such a mindset by looking at their success stories, by observing how they have reached to the market and being successful. We believe that they will create such a mindset and they will change their track to go for an employment at the end of the graduation. Therefore, I believe the answer is you look at these type of successful people and think whether you have to go to a job to be controlled by another boss, to work to a limited salary or something, or to decide your income, your earnings by you and being your own boss. That's your decision. And again, another question raised, why don't you go to the international market? Again, the resource person, Mr. Dhanika, very correctly answered, target marketing, right? Identifying the real target segment that you can satisfy the best. That is very important. That is the marketing concept that we learn. So marketing concept very clearly say that is not to go to the whole mass marketing, but to target it and really identify the group of customers that you can satisfy the best, and then you will do it. Finally, this is what I want to say. Actually, the session is very informative, not only limiting to your entrepreneurship or something, but you got a lot of things, right? Actually, I didn't thought that you will bring some insights toward the entrepreneurship, and I just thought that you will tell your success story, but you went beyond that, and I should be thankful for you for that. And the other thing is, I think my students got a great opportunity through this session by sharing your experience with them. It's a very great opportunity for them because you are one of the leading characters in the country. They will be inspired. I'm pretty sure that they will be inspired through your session. And thank you very much for the organizing committee for inviting this type of a very successful resource person today for this session. Organizing part has been done really well. I observed it really well. And thank you all, and all the best. Many congratulations, Mr. Dhanika, and for your journey is very clear. So you are one of the proud character in Sri Lanka. So we are fortunate to bring you here. We hope that you will be here in the future as well to share your experiences with our students. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, madam. I really appreciate your words.
Thank you, madam. Now I would like to invite Vishalya to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dakshani. So good evening to all. So as we have spent more than 1.5 hours in this today's webinar, I think this was a fabulous and exciting time we just spent. As we are in the first step in our career life, this was such an inspiration for young mindsets just like us. So, Mr. Dhanika Perera, I personally feel honored that I had this opportunity into this amazing story of your entrepreneurial life and how you taught us to think out of the box using real world example and activities. So also I believe each and every person in this session feels the same way. So I would like to express my gratitude towards setting your precious task for us and success story with us. And next, I would like to thank Mrs. Buddhika Dharmaratna, our lecturer of Entrepreneurship and Innovation subject, who has given the inspiration and guidance for conducting this webinar series. We have this golden opportunity to listen to such inspirational stories. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the participants who joined us today and helped to make this event a memorable one, and a big round of applause to the organizing committee for arranging this great event. So thank you all for joining today and your commitment for making this event a big success. And last, Mr. Dhanika Perera, please accept our gratitude through this digital token of appreciation for spending your precious time with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all. Over to you, Takshani.
Thank you, Vishalya. Now the time to witness the event with the photo. I am humbly requesting you all to turn on your web camera for a while. Virtual backgrounds are given in the chat. Let's wait for a minute to put backgrounds.
Takshani, it's had finished.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you this time. Thank you, dear all, and stay safe. Good night.
Good night, all.
Madam, meeting again. කරන්නද?
ඉන්න පුතේ මේ organizing committee එකට ඉන්න කියන්න පොඩ්ඩක්.
හරි madam.
Organizing committee, you want to leave, please?
Okay, madam.
There are some more, no problem. I believe that they will be the people who are going to do the next, no matter, they can be here. What I want to say is actually today's session is really a success. I really like the selection of the resource person today because we all know the success of that person, and I believe that almost all the participants could learn a big view or insight about the topic and the subject. And I really like the way that you have organized it. A lot of preparation I saw. Many of the time, I think the leader talked to me several times and asked for early arrangement of the meeting, and you have done rehearsal by your own. And thereafter, today also at the 1 hour prior to the session, you entered and you did a lot of work. I from the beginning, I observed how you organize it, and you made sure that there will not be any trouble or disturbance, and many things you did. So that's what I wanted. That's what I expected by this teamwork. Team is a team. You all have to work as a team, not just one or several people. So you proved that you are in a team, and you all contributed at your best to make this session, this webinar, a success, and you did it, right? Many congratulations, the team. I believe your webinar is a very successful one. You will also experience it. So you can do so much of things in the future related to the other subjects as well. Right? Thank you very much.
And also thank you very much, madam, for your contribution to make success this event, madam.
Okay, dear. Okay, Lakshan. Nice.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Yeah,
madam.
welcome, dear. Okay, right. Good night, all.
Madam, end කරන්න the meeting එක.
End කරන්න පුතේ.
Hari madam. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.